episode of Terry Thornberry Performance.
As you guys can see on the last couple of videos, we've been kind of busy on a bunch of other stuff. Working on mini trucks, working on the race cars, and getting some deer bars made for some Silverados. That being said, we're kind of coming back to the grassroots of 240SX. So we've got a beautiful 1990 240SX hatch. As you can see, this is kind of a different K to us. We went ahead and done the 1UZ swap with the OEM K trans. We'll be talking about that more. And then we got the beautiful 1998 S14 that's got a little bit of front end damage that we'll be having Hernan talk in depth on what's next on that car. So let's dive into what we need to do on these cars and show you guys what's next.
Woo! So let's get cracking. Woo!
So as you guys can see, we have this 1998 S14 in front of us. The owner was initially Zenki Fernand, but since he was in a collision, he decided to give it an update to the Kooky Fernand since it is a newer S14. Take a look under the hood. Since he was in that collision, a lot of the body was kind of damaged, so we decided to chop it and go with the tube front end. So it's a lot more structurally sound. You don't have to worry about damages that aren't seen. Everything's gonna bolt up exactly the way it would OEM. Everything's gonna line up the way it should. All the seams should line up perfectly. As you can tell, headlights are on these stands because at the moment I am working on making the brackets to hold it so it could bolt up perfectly and line up perfectly. So in addition to the two front, we're also making a custom bash bar that will replace the OEM crash bar that comes on these S14s. As you can see, I have a couple more bends to go and it'll be ready to mock up. Done with the fabrication side, let's get back to the boys and see what they're up to.
All right, so as Jack was saying, we got this fire-breathing dragon of a beast.
Remember,
in this chassis.
Japanese fire-breathing dragon.
That's right, big dog.
Exactly.
Japanese fire-breathing
The
dragon.
1UZ.
Up in this 1999 chassis. So now it's time to make sure it actually runs and it gets this chassis and the owner from A to B to C and possibly to the streets near you guys so you guys can check this out yourselves. But with that being said, the customer got some Nishimoto radiator and fans to make sure this stays nice and cool. It's got some BC coilovers to keep the ride height nice and where he wants it.
Not even that, making sure that the whole weight of this car and everything is able to take the load. So we definitely wanted to upgrade the coilovers on that being said. So not only for the ride height big boy,
but to support this big, massive fire-breathing dragon, big dog.
Japanese.
So with that being said, we have some 5-lug conversion hubs to go on with some big brake kits along with some ESR wheels.
You know what, bro? To be honest, Terry, you're getting a little bit ahead of yourself. You're talking about a lot of stuff that has nothing to do with getting this motor running. So we still got a lot of things to do with this chassis and the motor. You have to make sure that the drive shaft is being installed. That being said, it's got to be custom made. Making sure there's enough fuel to feed this Japanese fire-breathing dragon, that 1UZ. And we got to finish up all the wiring. Terry's already mentioned what's going to be keeping this thing nice and cool, the Nishimoto radiator. And we're making sure all the lights obviously work, interior and exterior, making sure this thing is running and driving supreme on the road. The only thing that we will not be touching is paint, but that's not our expertise because we'll be making sure that this thing's got a full exhaust system. We do have to make sure that's all custom made and making sure the trans mount and the custom motor mounts as well.
And there's one more thing, the battery relocation kit to make sure this engine bay of this Japanese fire-breathing dragon of a beast of an engine looks great.
Looks just as good as it sounds. So we'll be showing you on that. Maybe you guys will see it on the next video, but right now we'll be showing you how much we need to get done on both of these cars. So let's get this day rolling.
First steps on a clean engine bay. You gotta make sure the engine bay is clean, meaning less wires, less objects in the engine bay, and make sure what you're seeing, the motor, and all you're seeing, the main eye objective, the main eye holder. Check this.
see. Got all the wiring to this little hole, and right, the camera's wrong way. You gotta get all the wiring to this little hole right there. Just clear it out, get her done. Keep coming. Usually the harness goes through these two spots right here on the blower. You see, got all of it now. There'll be another set of wires. When you're pulling the wires, try and delume the whole wiring harness so it makes it a lot easier and nothing's gonna snag on you when you're going in. Is that it?
Yep, that's it.
So that's that. And now we got double camera. Alrighty, so you guys already seen me pulling the wire out. You guys already see me pulling the wire through the firing wall. Terry sent it over to me. I was out there clearing it. So now we've got all the cables that we need, meaning the engine harness. Since we're doing a battery relocation kit, we do need that 12 volt starter constant for the battery solenoid. So we've got that fed through into the cabin, and we'll be feeding that all the way to the back of the chassis. Like I've already said, we have the engine harness and everything we need to now get the motor situated and for it to turn on. That being said, the ECU can now sit in here. We can find a nice home for it so it can be nice and safe away from all the weather. Then we'll be finally moving on to the engine bay and getting all those wiring situated as far as for the OEM fuse box, so the headlights and everything can still work and we can still get fuel pump power to it. Let's go move on to the engine bay and see what else we need to get situated. So here is a little bit of unnecessary work, but it's kind of the TTP taste. So these two clips on your harness, these are going to be the igniter chips for both 1 and 2 on the heads. This is going to be your MAP sensor. That being said, I want to try and eliminate how dirty it is in the engine bay. So I'll be splitting the loom, putting the igniter chips inside the car, nice and tucked away, having the MAP wiring just by itself. So I'll be able to plug that and the motor will still be able to function properly. Let's get started to see what Terry has on his list to show you guys.
All right, guys, so this is the battery relocation kit that we offer to all of our customers, and we personally sell to all of our customers as well. So with that being said, let's just bust this battery relocation kit on out and show you guys, if you guys would purchase one for your car or for your build, what it all comes with. So we give you guys 8 feet of actual red cable, power cable, 2 gauge. Then we give you 2 feet of ground cable. And then we give you a full battery tray with everything you guys need to tie down your batteries. Now, along with the battery tray, we give you guys hardware and P-clamps to tie down the actual cable inside your car. And then we also throw in a rubber grommet. So if you guys do drill a hole through your chassis, you don't have to worry about the wire chafing or anything like that. We just throw this grommet right onto the hole and where you cut and drilled out. And now it's safe for no chafing or the wire to now be cut and then now ground out. So it also comes with a 2 gauge eyelet, 2 of them. And then obviously the tops for the tie down. So if you guys would be purchasing a battery relocation kit from us, this is exactly what you guys would be getting. So now let's install this into the chassis and show you guys some tips and tricks on how to relocate your battery in your S13 or your build at home. This is definitely a no-no. You got wires coming from inside the car to the exterior of the car. going through the door wedge. So when the door shuts, what do you think that those wires are doing? They are being smashed as if your fingers were there. So just take that in mind. So that's definitely a big red flag and a no-no. So that's gotta be put on the list of a redo and get done. So let's get that.
Some of the wiring is already done. Step one when putting in the motor is just basically laying out everything you need to do. So wiring's already in the car, laid out as far as what we need to do. It's the next step on what we like to do. Now the next step, what we want to do is getting the fuel situated. Since the 1UZ has everything over to the driver's side and OEM 240s on the passenger side, we're getting all the lines what we need to visually lay a map down so we can start getting fuel to this bad boy. For the fuel return, it goes all the way on the back of the motor and then comes all the way over to the passenger side already. This is gonna be a bolt right here. We're gonna go ahead and remove that, get ourselves aligned so we can make ourselves a fuel return. We'll be doing the same thing for the feed side. Since it's obviously angled the wrong way, we'll be needing to see what we can do to flip it around and get it going over to the passenger side.
So we typically like to put the battery on the opposite side of the driver just so it balances out the car just evenly, I would like to say. Just so when the driver's by himself, you've got the battery weight in the back on the passenger side, and then you have the driver's weight in the front on the driver's side, obviously. So with that being said, we're putting it in the passenger rear, right behind the shock tower. We're gonna go ahead and drill 2 holes out, put nutserts, and then go ahead and put the bolts through to hold down the actual battery bracket. And then right now I'm just putting the ground and the power to where they need to be, so when it's ready, Jack's comfortable to power everything up and test everything out. So let's move on.
So we're here with another helpful Terry Thornton Performance Tech Tip of the day. So if you're having this S chassis, you're putting one of these 1UZs in your chassis. A couple good things you definitely want to keep in mind is if you're keeping power steering, you want to have lines, and obviously if you want your car to brake, you need to make sure that your braking is all situated. That being said, once you put this motor in, you're going to run into some little problems. No need to fear. Just remove the master cylinder, get that out the way, put the motor in, put that back on. You don't need to do anything with the brake lines as far as them being OEM and replacing them. Now if you come over to the power steering side, you're going to notice that it's on the passenger side. Single cams have all the passenger lines for the power steering lines already made for you. So if you've got a single cam power steering lines, it's going to make this job a lot easier. You can already see that the feed and the high pressure line are already on this side. Just have to run to your local fitting store and get some custom lines made for that. That being said, this motor is kind of plug and play system as far as for all the trans. If you're keeping the OEM trans, just have to go ahead and wire it up. That's gonna be on the next little video. Let's go ahead over to the fab side and see how this S14 is coming along.
So as you guys can see, I got the brackets all made up. I got one installed 100% to show you guys that it's gonna line up exactly how it would with the OEM brackets. So we'll go down. Nice line. We'll get rid of the support here. Boom, perfect. So it lines up exactly how it would with the OEM setup. So last thing to go is to weld up the second bracket, and we should be good to go.
Well, we finally come on back to the red S13 with the 1UZ. As you guys can see, we got some stuff finished off on the S14, getting the front face finally back together again. Finally looked like a complete car to go back out on the street again. And we've showed you guys some little tips and tricks and some things that we have lined up that are going to be ready for this motor to start up next and for it to start up driving. So we've got a couple of cars that we need to get situated, but for right now we chose to choose these two to show you guys what we've been busy on. We've got a couple more cars that we need to get situated. That being said, we've got a couple things on these cars that need to get situated before they're out on the road. So stay tuned, we've got a couple of other videos that we want to show you, other builds that you guys need to stay in tune with, because I tell you what, they're going to be one of a kind. So until further notice, I hope you guys like and enjoy the rest of these videos. Stay updated with our Instagram, both with Terry Thornberry Performance and Black House Limited. Stay cool until further notice. We'll see you guys on the street, the track, or the shop. Woo! Woo!